My name is Josh, and this is WHIMS Interesting Musings, and today I'm going to be talking about the fourth episode of Black Mirror entitled Mazey Day. Now, before I go on with this video, I'm just going to say major spoilers for this episode. I'm going to go really in depth, and I am also going to talk a little bit about Beyond the Sea before I go into the actual review proper. So Beyond the Sea is one of those episodes where a lot of people didn't really like it. There's a lot of YouTubers who I've spoken to, a lot of people outside of YouTube that I've spoken to about this episode. And the general consensus is it has a lot of potential, but it doesn't really feel like it has what could traditionally be described as a Black Mirror aesthetic. It doesn't really feel Black Mirror to them. And I am going to say that I'm going to defend Beyond the Sea to the hilt. I felt like the characters were very well drawn, even though I found Aaron Paul's character to be more unlikable the more I thought about it in retrospect. So it could have turned the ending a little bit for me into a little bit of a tainted... it could have tainted the ending a little bit, where I found myself still kind of, thinking to myself, well, you kind of deserve it, Cliff, for what you've been behaving as. But yeah, I still kind of found the episode really compelling. I thought the actual moral question of what actually happens to people when they go through this technology is actually a very interesting ground for the episode to explore. But I will definitely say that Aaron Paul's performance in that episode was incredible. He really did a good job of playing not just Cliff, who is this very gruff and very old-fashioned and very secretive person, but he also plays David, who's Josh Hartnett's character, being inside, having his consciousness be put inside Cliff's body or his replica, was actually very compelling. The fact that he did this multi-layer performance really is Emmy-worthy, so I really do wish Aaron Paul the best of luck if he ever gets the chance to win an Emmy. If they are going to make the excuse that, oh yeah, it can't be nominated for an Emmy because it's a Netflix show, they've had Emmy nominations in the past where they've nominated streaming service shows, so if they're making that excuse, I don't think it's worth it. So yeah, I do hope that Aaron Paul gets an Emmy nomination for his performance in Beyond the Sea. It's absolutely masterful, and I really do think Charlie Brooker deserves a pat on the back for making this episode as compelling as it is. And it's amazing. I'm still going to hold a CAD, or I'm still going to wave the flag for Beyond the Sea in terms of its creativity and its ambition. So yeah, I'm still going to hold true to the idea that it's a very good episode, and I really enjoyed it. Mazey Day, on the other hand, I'm going to find a very difficult argument for, because I'm going to talk about the positives. The positives about this episode, so the basic episode proper is it's basically about a star, an actress, who is going through a bit of a rough time. She is... it's hinted at that she might have a drug problem, and she's having difficulties being harassed by the paparazzi, and she's just had to leave a very popular TV shoot because she's had to, she's had very surreal injuries, or she's had difficulties that aren't really disclosed to the paparazzi or any of the media. So she returns spontaneously to America, to LA, after she is found on a drug bender. She takes some shrooms, and while she's tripping, she decides to go out for a drive in the middle of the pouring rain, and she knocks someone down, and then that's all we hear about the event until we actually get into her being in LA proper. So she hires out an entire drug rehabilitation centre all by herself, so that she can get well and get better. On the other side of the spectrum, we have a member of the paparazzi trying to figure out where Mazey Day has gone, and if they find her in a pose where it's confirmed that she has a drug problem and she has, like, say, a heroin needle in her arm, or she's, snorting up a line of coke, then of course they'll happily pay any paparazzi member millions just to get a single snapshot of her in the act of doing these narcotics. So I really do feel like this entire episode really kind of made me feel angry, in the sense that the subject matter really made me feel angry, in the sense that these paparazzis have no shame. Like, they will literally photograph people in their most private moments just so they can get a snapshot of someone doing something terrible and doing something horrendous. And there was this one scene which really made me angry. I literally paused the film and I literally went into a rage, and I literally swore like there was no tomorrow, because this moment made me angry. There was a moment where a woman was leaving a nightclub and called Quagmire's, and she goes outside and everyone just starts taking photographs of her. And there's this one guy with a moustache, a very horrendous moustache, might I add, who takes a photograph up her skirt. Like, he has his paparazzi camera and he takes a photograph up her skirt, and he starts calling her all these horrible names which I can't repeat, and it really made me angry. And then when she turns round and then she actually gets angry and she actually tries to attack him, he says stuff like, "Oh, that's assault, you'll be hearing from my lawyer." And I thought, well, you started saying horrible things to her, mate, don't go there. Like, oh, it made me angry. And then when he started saying things like, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," I thought, she didn't even touch you, mate. Like, for goodness sake, you started it as well. Like, oh, that moment made me angry so much. And then when he said things like, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," I thought, she should sue you for you taking a photograph up her skirt. That's assault, mate. Seriously, you're a horrible person. But yeah, he's worthless. He's nothing. He gets his anyway. But yeah, that moment made me so angry. And it kind of tied into a theme which I really found quite interesting, especially when we talk about the twist. Because a lot of people say the twist of this episode wasn't really set up very well. But I feel like this episode did a very good job here, because I felt like, even though it's not set up in dialogue, people don't have really long conversations about it, it is kind of demonstrated through actions and through how the paparazzi behave when it comes to celebrities. Like, when the celebrities coming out of the nightclub, celebrities just swarm. They swarm like animals to a dead meat carcass. Like, seriously, they literally go and they show no mercy to this poor woman who literally is just leaving a nightclub. She's probably had the worst night of her life. And she's probably just thinking to herself, I just want to go home and I just want to have a nice cup of tea, or have a nice drink, or I want to have a nice, sit down with something, watch a nice film on Streamberry or a nice TV series, and then just go to bed. I don't want to worry about all this rubbish. So she's probably having the worst evening of her life. But then on top of that, people are taking photographs of her, along with this one piece of shit paparazzi who immediately starts to take a photo up her skirt. And I just found myself thinking, please don't do that, because you're making yourselves come across as such vultures and such amoral people. And it really made me angry. So I found myself, thinking to myself, these guys are literally like wolves. They literally are like wolves when they are surrounding a meat carcass, when they're literally, trying to hunt and they're trying to, stalk their prey. They'll often hunt in packs, and they'll often, hunt through means of, trying to destabilize or stabilize their prey so they can, go in for the kill. That's essentially what is happening with the paparazzi in this scene. They're all swarming, and it kind of gives you the impression that they literally are like hunters, they're like hunting wolves. So I kind of find it very interesting at the very end of the film, when the episode when the big twist happens, it kind of feels like poetic justice. In the words of the Penguin in Batman Returns, is this tragic irony or poetic justice? You tell me. And that's going to save it, especially that moustached guy. I was looking forward to the moment when someone would just punch him in the face, or he'd get some kind of karma. But I think him getting mauled to death by a wolf was pretty poetic justice to me. So yeah, he was horrible after what he did to that poor woman. Honestly, he was a piece of shit, and I really couldn't wait to see him go. But yeah, it kind of is trying to make a comment about paparazzi and all these other things. And yeah, it was pretty good. I like the fact that it's taking place in a time period that is very specific to the past. Like, it is. What I really like about this episode is they are going into the past a lot with Beyond the Sea. But then they also did that with Lock Henry, where it's kind of like in the present day, but it also has kind of like very, very, up and current, technology and, high-tech things. So it does have that feeling of, oh, it is diving a little bit into the past. And then, of course, in the next episode, we are going to go way back into the past to explore another storyline. So it's actually very interesting that this season's focusing more on period pieces as opposed to up-and-coming or futuristic technology. And I really like that. So, yeah. A group of paparazzi follow her to this rehab facility, and they basically, in the cover of darkness, try to get her photographs of her in, positions where she's taking narcotics. But then something really horrific happens. It looks like she's going through withdrawal, and her hands and her ankles are being literally chained to the wall. And they just decide, with no filter, they decide to break into the room, and they decide to just snap photos. Like, the flashes are going off like crazy, and they don't really care. They don't really care that she's in a vulnerable position. They don't really care that she could potentially be dying, that she's going through withdrawal. it looks like she's going through withdrawal anyway, and they're just sitting there snapping photos, and I'm just thinking to myself, someone is literally in pain, someone could be dying right now, and all you're doing is just taking photographs, like, really? And there's this one character who I was rooting for at first, but then it all changed with the ending. And this character I really was rooting for to make a positive change in her life, because she is a paparazzi member, but there is that moment, like I said, when when everyone's photographing that woman, where she does actually have a moment where she steps away and she says, I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm not going to do this to this person, because she's having a really rough night. And on top of that, these people are, calling her names and making all sorts of horrible things happen to her. So I found myself thinking, oh, at least she's, taking the moral high ground here, and she's saying, I'm not going to debase this person. But she's no saint either. She had a moment where she was taking photographs of this guy leaving his apartment with someone else, and he's literally begging her, you know what, I can pay for you to, keep quiet and not leak those photos to the press. Yes, and she literally just drives away. She says, no, sorry, I can't do this. I've got to make a living. She doesn't even try to defend herself and say, I'll think about it or whatever. No, she doesn't even do that. She just drives away, and I thought, you're no saint either, love. So there was a lot of moments where I was quite infuriated with a lot of the characters in this episode. But I really do like the fact that even when they have the photos, the prize-winning photos that could earn them millions, when the big twist is revealed that Mazey Day is in fact a werewolf, they're still, even though they're running for their lives and they're literally, trying to get away from this creature, they're still holding on to this camera. Like, there's this one moment where this guy gets stuck under the broken down fence, and he's trying to get through because he's dug a hole from, when they were trying to get in the first time before the cover of darkness, and he's trying to get through to get out when they're trying to leave, and he just gets stuck, and even then he's holding onto the camera with dear life. Like, he literally knows that this could earn him millions, but he's in a situation where he could potentially get mauled to death by a wolf, so he's literally still holding onto the camera. The camera holds preservation for a lot of people, but the camera that has that $1 million photo is that MacGuffin. Like, we don't care about it, but the people in the episode do, and it's really weird because part of me just feels like they would literally do that. Like, they'll hold on to this bit of information because they know it will earn the millions, but it's not going to earn you millions. Money's going to be useless to your love when you're dead. Like, yeah, I really didn't like this episode. But then, of course, there's the moment where they go into the diner, and the wolf pursues them, and the main character, the main paparazzi person, decides to use a gun. And it was one gunshot that does this werewolf in, and I thought, that's lame right off the bat. But also the fact that she changes immediately back into a human after being shot, that's very reminiscent of American Werewolf in London, but then it's also reminiscent of The Company of Wolves, one of my favourite underrated werewolf films. There's also other examples of that happening in other werewolf films as well. So it's a very, very good creative idea. But then there's a moment where the main character goes under a conundrum, because she literally says, Mazey Day says in her dying breath, like, give me the gun, I just want to end it all. And instead of just leaving her to do it in peace, she sees her put the gun to her head, and then she raises her camera to take a photo. And it just goes to show that nothing really changes. She's still going to be, draining people of life, being this parasite, and it costs this poor woman her life. And this was the episode that really made me angry the most, but I found myself kind of really respecting it more the more I kind of kept on watching it. And it felt like, even though the twist comes out of nowhere that she's a werewolf, I felt like there were little visual clues to hint at the twist, and there was even a hint at the synopsis where the synopsis of the episode said a celebrity is being dogged by the paparazzi, hinting that she's being hunted like an animal in the forest by the paparazzi, who are the wolves. But then the big twist is that it's the paparazzi who are the prey in the end, and it's the celebrity who is doing the hunting and hunting them down and claiming her vengeance. It's kind of like it reminded me a bit, even though it's a completely different film, it reminded me of The Menu, how the menu basically is a massive, massive revenge fantasy for anyone who has ever worked in the catering industry. Anyone who has ever had to deal with an awkward customer who says there's no avocado in my avocado burger, or whatever the hell it is that they make reference to. Like whenever someone says, oh, there's no extra cheese on my cheeseburger, and they say, is your food fresh, and they'll sniff and they'll lick the food, but then they'll say, oh, take it back, I don't want it, it's not the chicken that I wanted. And any customer who's had to sit there and indulge the customer, else they get big complaints coming in, or they get big harassment coming in. It's a huge catharsis for people who are in that industry. It's a huge revenge fantasy for people in that industry. This kind of feels like that kind of story, where it feels like a revenge fantasy for any celebrity who's ever wished to dole out pain and punishment to a paparazzi member. But in this case, they have no control because they're a werewolf and they can have an out-of-body experience. So there's a lot of things that you could read into there with that. But I feel like it's a very clever episode. It's very kind of short. It comes in at 40 minutes, whereas a lot of the episodes have kind of, varied from an hour to an hour and 50 minutes long. So there's a lot of... It feels like it's the shortest out of the ones that we've had so far, the 4 ones that we've had so far. But I feel like this one is okay. It's not perfect, it's not a masterpiece, but I did still enjoy it. I still found it to be very fun. It was very quick. It was over within a flash, and I literally found myself thinking, wait, is that it? Like, is that the end of the episode? But I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts for Mazey Day, episode 4 of season 6 of Black Mirror. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Did you think it was, did you think these supernatural twists came out of nowhere, or did you think it earned it in some way? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you like this video, please be sure to give a thumbs up, and this has been Josh with WHIMS Musings. I hope you're all having a very good day. Take care, bye-bye for now.